What's up, interpreters? This is Shauna Skinner, and I am the director of the new NAI volunteer community.
What's up, interpreters? My name is Shawna Costicov-McCombe. I know that's a mouthful, but I am the deputy director of the new NAI volunteer community.
What's up, interpreters? This is Heather, your NAI Corporate Engagements and Partnerships Manager.
What's up, interpreters? This is Song. I am your conferences and events manager with NAI. What is up, new volunteer community people? This is awesome.
It is awesome.
Yeah, we're very excited.
And Shauna, how am I going to do it? Shauna S and Shauna C? We have the Shaunas. Welcome. Thank you. Shauna C, I almost didn't recognize you. For one, you didn't have your last name on, and then also we're not on Interp Talk.
I know.
So that's usually the screen that I'm seeing you in, and it took me a minute. So it's nice to see you here too, and I'm glad you're part of the volunteer section. That's awesome.
I'm really excited that I get to be.
Yeah. So I guess I know maybe a little bit more about Shauna C, but Shauna S,
Yeah.
Can you kind of tell us a little bit? Were you sort of behind the spearheading of the volunteer section?
Yes, I was actually. It all started, well, I think it mostly started at the 2022 national conference that was held in Cleveland, Ohio. And I live just south of Cleveland. So, it's a great opportunity to get a national conference in. And the whole time I was there, I'm talking to people, I'm meeting people, and I walked away with a feeling that I wanted to do more with NAI. I wanted to be more involved, but I couldn't find a good opening for that. It's like, where can I help? Where can I be involved? What can I do? And I kept thinking about it and thinking about it. It's like, why don't we have a volunteer community? That's a place where I could get involved, where I could be involved. And I did some checking into it. I know Terry Joyce, who sits on the board, and talked to her about it and found out how we could get this started. And basically started with me putting up something on the forum saying, hey, is anybody interested in doing this? And I got responses. I was like, wow, people were interested in it. There's interest, there's a need. And it just took off from there, like trying to find people that were interested in helping get this off the ground and going through all the steps to make the community happen. And I'm very excited to say that in August of 2024, it did.
That's awesome. And Shauna's, did you know each other previously?
No.
We did not.
Yeah, so you met through NAI and through this call for the section, the new section.
Yeah, we did.
That's way cool. And so, Shauna C, what is your daytime interpretation gig, and how did you get involved with NAI?
So I started my own organization called the Big Bad Project, and what we do is we talk about our growing biodiversity crisis, and we kind of want to highlight how important it is to be aware of that. So we have ambassador animals that we use, and I was looking at my programs and how I can strengthen my programs through storytelling. And if I'm being honest, I didn't know the term interpretation existed until Nikki Boyd at San Diego Wildlife Alliance was like, yeah, you should really check this out. It has strengthened all of our programs. And I think that this would be a good fit for you. So that is how I came to know NAI. And I revamped all of the programs, all the educational programs that I was doing. And now I started last month as the executive director at Wolf Park out in Indiana. And we are bringing interpretation to all of our educational programs here. So I actually just signed Wolf Park up for an institutional membership, and now I have 2 of my staff members going through their SIG training next month. So coming up at the beginning of October, they will have their SIG training, and then one of those staff members is going to go through our programs here at Wolf Park with a fine-tooth comb and hopefully bring some more interpretive elements to them.
That is so cool.
It is so cool. And, I feel like you two fit differently in the volunteer section, right? Because Shauna, you have where Shauna C, you're a bit in interpretation and really, really diving kind of in the deep end, doing, the certificate programs and all of that, which is
Yeah.
awesome. But Shauna Skinner, I think you have a totally different daytime job. Is that correct?
That is correct. What I do during the day has nothing whatsoever to do with interpretation.
Yeah, and I think that you and I did chat in Cleveland because I feel like you told me the amount of volunteer hours you have with your organization, and it was incredibly impressive. Is that right?
Yeah, that's probably true. I think around the conference in 2022, I had just completed 5,000 hours,
Yeah.
5,000 volunteer hours. Now I'm closer to 6,000.
And what organization do you volunteer for?
For Cleveland Metro Parks.
Oh, okay. Why did you start volunteering at Cleveland Metro Parks?
That's a great question. And it started when I moved to Cleveland. I grew up in Western Pennsylvania, very small town, not really a whole lot going on there. So when I moved to Cleveland, there were so many things to do and so many exciting opportunities. And I knew that the first thing I wanted to do when I got to Cleveland was go to the zoo. And I remember it was like Wednesday of the first week I got to Cleveland. I spent the whole day at the zoo, and I was like, wow, this is awesome. I can just come here whenever I want to come. And I pretty much ended up doing just that. Like I was a regular visitor on the weekends, and I started talking to the volunteers there and getting to know them and listening to them talk about the animals and be so excited about the animals and see what they're doing. And eventually one of the volunteers said, we see you just about every week. We talk to you just about every week. Why don't you join us? And at the next sign up for volunteers, I did. And that's what got me started on the process.
That's so
And
cool. I worked at the zoo here in Utah, and of course, the volunteer program was such an integral part of the visitor experience and animal care. So I love, love, love volunteers like Mega a lot, and I'm super excited about this new section. So it's really cool. We've got somebody uh, who has been a volunteer, who is currently a volunteer, then somebody who also helps manage volunteers for their organization. So what a great dynamic duo the Shawnas are for this section. It's so, so great. Tell me, I guess, Shauna, from your perspective as your daytime executive director job, what is the importance of volunteers in at a site and with educational
Oh,
programs?
I cannot say just how much we love our volunteers here at Wolf Park. They are an integral part of our operation. From providing tours to animal care, we rely on them so heavily. And I'm maybe gonna be shunned for this, but there is no volunteer like a Wolf Park volunteer, as far as I'm concerned. They are so dedicated and so like I have people traveling 2-3 hours just to volunteer here for a period of time. And it's amazing. It truly is. We have volunteers and docents who do give tours here. So we have different educational tours talking about conservation, talking about wolves. We have specialty tours talking about our bison here. So we have a mix of staff and a mix of volunteers, and then our volunteers over on the animal care side. They are just as important as our paid staff. So, and I come from a background where the majority of my volunteer experience was in animal care. The majority of my professional experience was in operations. So here I kind of get to marry the two of them, but I was fortunate enough to be in a facility as a volunteer where they treated us like staff. We got the same professional development opportunities. We got the same support that staff members got. And what I realized is that's not normally the case, where you have these volunteers who are in forward-facing positions and who are the face of your organization, but you're not providing them the same amount of resources. And so that's part of how we've started changing things here at Wolf Park, but also that is why I found interest in this volunteer community, because I think it is so critical that we are able to provide resources for volunteers and show just how important the volunteers are, because if we're not supporting them as organizations, it hurts us. So I think that when Shauna put the call out for this volunteer community, every part of me kind of lit up, and it just made sense that this is what we do.
Yeah, you're kind of answering questions before I ask them, Shauna,
Sorry.
because I was gonna talk about what the importance is or what makes a successful volunteer workforce, right? And I think you answered a little bit of that is being tied, training and then being
Yeah.
tied to a community. And Shauna Skinner, you obviously saw that in NAI, right? Like, because there's one thing to volunteer, there's the next to seek out your professional association, and then seeing the void also, because we have 176 members through NAI that are volunteer members, right? And so there's your community is right there.
Right, yeah, and it's, and I'm really hoping with this group that we can reach out to them and we can connect with them, because I think right now it's probably pretty separate and pretty spread out. And like I could probably count on one hand the number of volunteer members that I actually know personally. So I think it'll be great for us to connect and talk to each other. And that's one of the things I'm hoping to accomplish with the community.
Is just getting together. I mean, maybe Shauna, you first met through the forum,
Yeah.
right? Because Shauna, you said you put it, but with our, technology now and Jamie sort of ramping up our opportunities through the membership area of the website. Yeah, you can have a volunteer section dashboard, right? And so you can communicate in there and kind of share ideas, because it is different, right? I mean, you have different issues as a volunteer, or Shauna, for you, your volunteers have kind of different issues than the frontline full-time interpreter might have, right? But it seems that everybody kind of needs a supportive community in that. What do you hope to do besides sort of bringing people together? Do you have a vision for this community?
Yeah, it's some things that I'm hoping to focus on are providing more training and support, like find some speakers that's what's the best way to work with specific group, what are some tips for working with guests that come in, like if you have someone who comes to your site and and they have autism, like what are some tips and some strategies to best work with them to make it a comfortable experience for both them as a guest and you as the interpreter, so everybody leaves with a good feeling about the interaction. And I'm also hoping to provide like maybe some skill building levels, some training and education. So just think maybe if fill in some gaps, like somebody says, oh hey, I've always wanted to know more about wolves and wolf conservation. Maybe that's Shaughnessy has has some information on that. And we're also hoping to put together a resource library of videos, documentation, and places where people can come for information and tips and help when they have when they're interpreting. Like for example, if someone's like, oh hey, I'm doing a talk on bald eagles in 2 weeks and I don't know where to start with research, say here's some information that we've put together for you.
So my intentions, because I have a different perspective, I'm really hoping that we can showcase just how important volunteers are. And I'm hoping that we can pull more institutions and organizations into that volunteer network so they can learn how to better manage their volunteers, how to set their volunteers up for success, and understand that their needs may be slightly different than staff needs, and we should still, as institutions, be able to support that. So that is my perspective coming in from an organizational standpoint.
That's right. It seems like as a a subject matter you could have subject matter focus, right? So you could have interpretation focused skill building, or you could have sort of how to be a better volunteer
Mhm.
skill building at the same time. So sorry, Song, you go.
No, it was just because Shauna C mentioned that she's had this great experience where volunteers are treated like staff and get similar professional development opportunities. And I definitely don't think that is the case everywhere with volunteers. And so I love that you'll be able to help facilitate, some additional training for these, members of the volunteer section. So they have some additional skills and things they can take back for the managing up aspects of their careers. So anyway, this is really, really exciting. So how does one become a member of the volunteer section?
Well, if you're already an NAI member, I just log into your NAI profile and click a box for the volunteer community. That's one way to join, and I guess to join officially at least. And we're just hoping to get a wide variety of people interested in our community and interested in what we're doing. I'm hopeful that we can get a lot of different a lot of different types of NAI members, a lot of different voices, a lot of different perspectives, because I think we might be able to provide perspective for volunteer managers and coordinators, like what motivates you, what's the best way to recognize volunteers, what it's like I see sometimes there'll be posts in the forums where that question comes up, and it's like like I know the answer to that, but it's and I think it's a great way for them, for managers and coordinators to connect with actual volunteers, see what makes us tick, what motivates us, what gets us to show up on a regular basis.
Yeah, are you planning on hosting online like get-togethers and presentations?
Yeah, actually, we're hoping to host a whole bunch of different calls and hopefully have it be like a monthly check-in with volunteers, have different subjects that we cover, and then as Shauna was saying, bring in professional speakers that maybe are focused on the volunteers' perspective for a certain topic. Right now, like Shauna said, I think the best thing that folks could do is log into their account and check that button. And then we can kind of start getting the ball rolling on communicating with our volunteers and our other volunteers and communicating with maybe institutions that are looking to strengthen their volunteer network and their practices for coordinating or managing volunteers. So there's a lot of opportunities there for folks that are NAI members. They don't just have to be volunteers.
Do you have a leadership team right now? And I'm sorry, I feel like I should know a little bit more. Or is it so director and deputy director? Is that your roles? And then do you have other folks, or are you still looking to build a leadership team?
Yes, we also have Hank, who is our treasurer, and he could not make the call today, but he provides a lot of great information and insights, and we're definitely glad to have him on the team. But we're hoping that more people, as we grow, that other people were interested in helping and joining and participating.
Shauna, how did you hear about NAI? I know that Cleveland Metro Parks has been very tied in with NAI for a very long time. So I'm assuming that's how you heard about NAI. And then Shauna C, I'm curious how you learned about us too.
So, well, I heard about it after I became a docent. I became a docent in 2009. And then in 2010, they offered CIG class, and docents were able to sign up for that on their own if they chose to, which I did. And that's how I got started.
And for me, so when I started the Big Bad Project, we started under a different name and we're kind of trying to figure out our image and our brand and get feedback from zoological community, but also conservation community. And I'm a member of AZA, the Association of Zoos and Aquariums. And I ran into Nikki Boyd out of San Diego Wildlife Alliance, and she gave a presentation during one of the coffee chats that we have there, which is a lot like our Interp talks that we do. and it was on interpretation. And I pinged her afterward, asking a little bit about it. And she was just, she didn't have enough nice things to say. Like she couldn't say enough. It was just, it's been amazing. It has been transformative for our organization, definitely something that I believe every institution, regardless of their connection to the zoological community, should invest in. So that was my first lead in into NAI, and I realized that I had been doing interpretation for a very long time, but it was never formally named for me. So I had been giving talks on wolves or on a Canadian lynx or a wild Mustang or a wallaby, which were all awesome, but I didn't realize that that was the term for what I was doing. So it opened up a whole new world in educational materials for me, and again, strengthening what I already had learned and experienced. So that is all the credit to Nikki for that one.
That's awesome. Thank you, Nikki. Shout out to Nikki.
I would just welcome our community at NAI to come say hi during our community nights, because I will be at conference in December.
Awesome.
And I will be repping Wolf Park, I will be repping Big Bad Project, and I will be
Yay.
repping our volunteer communities. So I'm starting to feel like a character from Game of Thrones with like a list of list of names and associations. But I'm excited to meet some of the rest of our community members. And yeah, I welcome everybody to come say hi, find out a little bit more, come talk to me.
So great. Thank you so much, Shauna and Shauna, for joining
You
us
are very
today.
welcome.
This is just
Thank you for having us.
It's so
Yep,
fun,
thank
and
you.
you make it so easy to want to join your community, and there are certainly a lot of volunteers out there. I'm sure that you will actually probably help get us more NAI members based on just them being volunteers, because this is a great opportunity. So very, very, very excited.
Yeah,
that's
and
what
thank
we're
you
hoping
for just recognizing the importance of, for one, volunteering and volunteers, and also for their success. Because it is, I feel like if you don't even know the benefits that volunteers bring to organizations, and then a successful volunteer workforce is just so key to the success of the organization. So thank you for recognizing the importance. And
Interpreters.
That's what's
That's
up.
what's up. Hey, I think that was pretty good.